So welcome to part 2 of our modern Scrapy tutorial series, and here we're going to deviate ever so slightly from the standard approach. We're going to introduce a new package, and this is separate to Scrapy, so we'll need to install it. It's based on WebPoet, it's called Scrapy Poet, and that allows us to separate out the parsing logic from the crawling logic within our spider, and it makes it much easier for us to handle this sort of thing here, the parsing logic, separately. I'm going to show you how it all works and how it all intertwines. And I would highly recommend that you use this approach when you start to build your Scrapy spiders rather than the traditional approach, as the benefits as you go forward are just much better, testing, etc. And also it allows us to have single spiders that are able to scrape multiple different websites. So the first thing we want to do is come to items, because we are going to be using items. We're not passing around dictionaries now. We're going to be using an actual item class. Now, I don't tend to use the Scrapy items class anymore. I use attrs, generally speaking, although data classes will work for this too, and as well as some pydantic classes also work as of, I believe, Scrapy 2.2, but I'm not entirely sure about that. I like attrs, it's what I use, and it comes installed with Scrapy initially, so you don't need to worry. Now we need to do our attrs define. I'm going to call this class a book item, and this is where we're going to have the 3 fields that we created that we wanted to scrape, which were name as a string, price, again this was just going to be a string, and the URL, which is also a string. Now generally, when you're doing this properly, you would have the correct type associated to these, so that you kind of figure out and know where you're at and what different types should be. It's generally a better idea than just having price as a string, for example. So now we have our single item. Now this represents these fields here, so whatever you've decided to scrape from the page here will need to be replicated here for these fields. But this is where we are going to deviate, as I said. So we're going to want to install Scrapy Poet. I'm going to do uv add, and it's Scrapy-Poet like this. I've already got it installed, but you'll need to add this to either via UV or via pip if you're doing it through that method. Now we need to add a couple of settings in here. We need to enable the add-on with Scrapy_Poet and give it the add-on. And then we need to assign it a value. And we need one other setting here, which is Scrapy Poet Discover, like so. And this is going to be a list, and it's going to be like so. I've got tutorial pages. So what this is tutorial, which is my project, and pages is a new module that I'm going to create under the tutorial here. So let's create a new folder, pages, and within this pages folder, I'm going to create my init.py. So we can actually import in and out of this, becomes a Python module. So that's where this comes from, tutorial, and pages is here. This is where all of our page objects are going to go. So to start with, by creating our first page object, we can go in here, new file, and now I call this based on the domain that I'm scraping. So we'll have books to scrape.com and -py. So this is going to hold all of the page objects that we are creating for this website that we are scraping. A page object, you'll have one object per type of page. So I have a detail page and I have a list page. So I'm going to be creating 2 page objects, and they are going to handle the parsing logic as we go. So we need to import a few things in. So I'm going to do from WebPoet, which is what Scrapy Poet is based on. We're going to import web page. We need handle URLs. We need field. And we also going to need returns, because it's going to return an item. Then we need to import our item, which I've got here, book item. So from tutorial.items, tutorial items.py, book item. This needs to match. Now from here, we need to actually start to build our class, which is going to be our page object. So our handle URLs is going to be the URL pattern match for what we are going to be able to send into this page object. So without this being correct, you will get errors. So make sure that this matches. So for me, I've got books2scrape.com, then /catalog, and then / after that, which will match this here. So our project is going to know that whenever we hit one of these URLs, whenever the response matches it, it's going to come to this page object. So we can do that. So then I'll have a class. I'm going to call this book detail page, so it's a bit more clear to me. And this is going to be a web page, inherit from web page. And we're also going to do returns book item as it shows here. But this is not correct. Now we need to have at field, because we want to have a new function for every field within this class that we have for our item. So we're going to have our new field, which is going to be a string. Then we have another field, which is our price. And then another one, which is our URL here. Now this is nice and easy. This one, we know that this is going to be return. And this is just going to be string. I'm going to turn this into a string, self.response URL. So what we're going to do here is we're basically going to put the selectors in that we had. So if we go to our spider, our selector here for the name was this. So we're going to return this, self.response, because we're inside our class which inherits from web page, which is going to be able to have the response. And there we go. And then we can take out the same for the price. Yep, there we go. And that is it for this page object. So this is a very simple one because there's only 3 fields, but realistically you would have as many fields as match your schema because you would need to have that information. And within these fields, these functions, you can control where you scrape the data from, how you manage it, anything you need to do to it, and also then return out exactly what you want depending on the situation. This is a much easier way to handle it than to try and do it in all of a yield here, even if you are using some kind of item class here. So this is definitely how I would recommend that you learn how to use Scrapy now. It does add an extra little bit of work with the new pages and the extra files here with the classes, but it is well worth quickly taking the time to learn and understand how to use. It will save you so much effort going forwards. And in the next video, I'm going to have a more complicated example and I'll show you how we do this super quick. So make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it already. So we all need to change our spider, and I'm going to do this up here. We're going to do from tutorial.items. We're going to import our book item. I'm going to scroll down to here where we're doing our past book. We don't need this anymore. We don't need the response because we're not working with the response here. We're simply working with our book item. So our whole passing function now is just going to call the book item, which in turn knows how to work it out here. And it's going to call this web page function, the detail page object. And it's going to do this here. It's going to return the completed item. So when we run this, we'll see that we're actually getting some errors. And I want to show you how to handle this because it's tripped me over a few times. You can see we're saying we're one positional argument missing. And that's most likely if you're getting that because your pattern matching over here isn't working. And if you look at this, it's HTTP and our actual URL is HTTPS. So we can just chop this off in its entirety. And now when we clear and run again, we should be able to actually have the working output. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. We can see here. So we are now returning the book item with the information in every time. So let's go ahead and add in the list item page. So we want to create a new item for that. And this shows you how just easy it is to add extra things into the projects when you use it this way. So at as defined, list page, next page URL, and product URLs. I'm just going to change that to book URLs like so. Now we need to create a new page object for this. Again, same domain, so I'm going to put it in the same file, and that looks about right to me. Although I'm going to remove this here, and we'll have it as category, and we're just going to be scraping from categories here. So we'll have our book list page, which inherits from web page, and it's going to return the list page, which is correct. Create the fields. Oh, I need to import the list page from up here. There we go. And it's going to import in that. So we have field, book URLs, and that's going to return this selector, which I'm hoping is the same as the one on the other page, and this selector here as well. So we have that, which looks right, and that also looks right. We'll find out if either of those are wrong in just a minute, relying on my Copilot autocomplete. Probably a little bit too much here. But you can see how easy we start to build all of this up. So let's come back to our spider, import the list item, the list page rather, sorry, and let's get rid of this. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to add this in. We do need the response in this function. We didn't need it here because we're not doing anything with it, so we're throwing it away. But here we are using it for follow. Then we have page, which is our list page. I'm going to get rid of this. And we're going to say yield, response, follow all, book URLs, and call back to the past book. I mentioned this in the last video. You can do follow all. And the same thing here, next page URL is going to look in page.nextpage URL within our page object, which is going to reference this here and find this information down there. I'm going to save. I'm going to clear this up and we're going to try now. Okay, it doesn't seem to like this. So let's try going back here. Either I'm not getting the URLs. Let's check that first. Article, product pod. I think that looks right. So let's double check and change this. So we'll do for, and we'll just do response.follow. And let's try now. Okay, so response.follow all looks like it doesn't work with the async function. I'd have to check on that. But now we've got this working, we have a couple of other things that we can see with our item scrape count. We also have this poet here, and we can see how many times our pages were accessed, right? So we have book detail page 48 and book list page 3. That's kind of useful to see what's going on. So what we've created here is a spider that can be used for multiple different pages. So in its simplest form, any page that uses these items, we could very, very quickly and easily create another page object file for a different domain, as long as the items were the same. But if the items weren't the same, we could create new items and we could put rules into Scrapy Poet settings so it knows where to look when it's creating, when it's trying to find the right pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab another URL just for an example. And if we create a list with this and we update our Scrapy URLs, we just put this all on a couple of lines so it's easy for us to read. What we're going to do now is go through two different categories and grab the information from those utilizing the same spider. I know these were the same pages, but we can just see it working here. So we have 67 and 4 list pages as opposed to what we had before. So that's going to do it for this episode. What I'm going to do in the next one is I'm going to really want to expand on this because I think this is very important to understand how to build out modern Scrapy spiders using this technique. This is how we do it as maintainers of Scrapy, and this is how we do it as professional users through Zeit. So I highly recommend learning this method. I'll expand on this with our web scraping copilot in the next lesson.